everyone. I'm Lynette, and I'm the marketing director here at Liz Moore & Associates, and today I'm here with Liz, and every year Liz does something we call Liz's Crystal Ball. And what she does is talk about what her predictions are for the real estate market, for the upcoming year, what she thinks is going to happen. And we usually publish it, and so we thought this year it'd be really fun to do it on video. So thank you, Liz.
Absolutely, happy to be here.
Good, good. So first to start, I'm really curious, how would you sum up the year 2020?
Wow, that's a great question. You know, there is no doubt that 2020 has been one for the history books and something we're going to remember and talk about for a long time. And if you would have told me a year ago that things would have turned out the way they've turned out, I'm not sure I would have believed you. But this time last year, before we had any idea that there was a pandemic that was in front of us, we were actually teed up in all three of our markets for a record year. Then when the pandemic struck, April saw a nosedive, but sales rebounded essentially as fast as they went down. And as a company, we ended up the year 15% ahead in 2020 over 2019. So to me, that's absolutely remarkable.
So even with the pandemic, would you say you were correct in your crystal ball predictions overall?
You know, it's funny that you say that. Actually, my crystal ball predictions were low, even in a pandemic year.
Right.
So
wow,
we were very, very blessed. That's
pretty
for sure.
Crazy. Pretty crazy. So what do you see going into now 2021? What that big impact will be
of coronavirus? We definitely are still feeling the effects of the inventory shortage. And there are plenty of sellers out there, understandably, who are not comfortable putting their house on the market. So probably the biggest stressor that the real estate industry has faced this past year is not having enough houses to sell. So there's plenty of buyers out there that are anxious to take advantage of low interest rates, but not necessarily enough homes for them to purchase. So until the vaccine is wider spread and COVID is a little bit more in our rearview mirror, I anticipate that we're going to continue to see a really tight market with much greater demand than supply.
Interesting. So then, given all of that, what advice would you give to sellers if you were to sit down and talk to somebody?
Well, there is no doubt that this is an optimum market to be a seller. So if you're in a position that you are comfortable to put your house on the market, the fact that there is very little competition means you as the seller are in the driver's seat. You're able to push the envelope on price, you're able to negotiate better terms than you can in a more balanced market. In our greater Williamsburg market this past year, sellers actually enjoyed almost an 8% appreciation.
Wow.
And typical appreciation in an average year is about 3.8%. So doubling what they're seeing in price appreciation.
Gotcha.
So to answer your question, that was a long answer to a short question. I think the advice that I would give to sellers is sooner rather than later. You know, as the virus is behind us, I expect to see a lot of pent-up seller inventory coming on the market. So if you can beat that inventory, that's definitely going to position you well.
Right. Good advice from Liz herself. So what about the luxury market? What do you
know, it's interesting because in past years we've had reasonably strong sales, but the luxury market has always lagged behind that. In the corona year of 2020, our luxury market has actually flourished, and we've seen sellers, even with price points up over $750,000, selling in a much shorter time than we typically see and getting a better value in sold price to list price ratios as well.
Wow, okay. So we talked about sellers. Liz, what would your advice be for buyers right now?
Buyers definitely face some challenges in the current market. Everybody is scrambling to take advantage of interest rates, which we are seeing in the high twos, mid to high twos, which honestly Last year, if you would have told me that, I would have said there's absolutely no way. We've definitely hit our low point at 3, and then here we've gone even lower than that. The problem is, because there are so many more buyers out there than sellers, you're competing as a buyer. And so your offer is definitely going to have to be strong. You may end up paying a little bit over asking price. So your realtor and your lender can help you get comfortable with the numbers that you're talking about, and lower interest rates have a huge impact on your payment. So even in a very competitive market, I still think there are plenty of good buys to be had.
So you mentioned interest rates. What do you think is going to happen with interest rates in the coming months?
So if you look back at any of my crystal balls over the past few years, the last 3 years I have predicted that they're going to start to rise. And I've been wrong about that in my crystal ball for the last 3 years. But it is just really hard for me to imagine that we're not going to see that. I have to believe that we're bouncing along the bottom right now. And as the economy improves, supply and demand, all of that tells us that those interest rates are going to have to tick back up with the health of a strengthening economy.
Okay, so with the economy and interest rates and all of that, some people are saying that, they're predicting the real estate housing bubble that we're in right now is the one that we were in right before the big crash in 2008. What, do you think that's the case?
I've heard that too, but frankly, I think the real estate market right now is so different than the real estate market was in 06, 07 before things crashed in 08. The biggest thing, what we're talking about, is the inventory. Back then, we had months and months and months supply of inventory.
Right.
And so it put sellers at a point where they couldn't sell. That is actually the opposite of the situation that we're in now.
Okay.
Sellers also have a lot of equity in their property right now because they haven't moved for a long time. We're seeing the average tenure in a home is somewhere around 9 years right now. Used to be 6 to 7.
Wow.
Half of the homeowners in America have got their houses paid for. So people are just not as house poor as they were back when things really took a downhill.
Interesting.
In 2008.
Interesting. So kind of not really the same at all.
No, I am not worried, at least at this point, I'm not worried about any kind of a bubble bursting. What I think is going to happen as more sellers come into the market, we'll actually see the market balance a little bit.
Okay. So if I'm a buyer or if I'm a seller right now and I'm really wanting to take advantage of the strong market that we have, the low interest rates, all of that stuff, but I'm still a little concerned about COVID, what would your advice be? What should I do?
So there are so many things that we can do in this market to keep our clients safe. So much of showings and contracts and all of that can be taken online and done virtually. So my advice to you would be to start with a Zoom meeting with an agent. It doesn't even need to be an in-person meeting, and I think you can sit down and explore what it would look like to have your house on the market, what showings would look like, and then make a decision at that point if it's something that you feel comfortable with.
So we can even Zoom that. We can Zoom everything.
We can Zoom everything. We're getting used to Zoom.
Okay, great. So Liz, then in comparison to your crystal ball last year, you were, sort of a little off. What would you...
Let me correct you. I was off on interest rates going up because they went down, and I was off because I think I predicted that the market would be up 8%. And actually, we were up 15%. I think the market was up closer to 8%.
Okay.
So I wasn't
You weren't that wrong.
wrong.
So maybe let's just say interest rates, and you obviously didn't know that COVID was happening. So my last question would be, of everything that you've predicted for the next, for 2021, is there anything that you're not fully confident in your prediction? Is there anything that you're thinking, well, I'm gonna go ahead and say this might be the case, but...
The only thing that I'm really not sure about is how long it's going to take the inventory to come back.
Gotcha.
And I think
Yeah.
that's really because at this point we don't know how long it's going to take the vaccine
Right.
to be widely available to people.
Yeah.
And I think that the inventory and month supply of inventory is going to be
Right. A bit of
a following
guessing game.
indicator
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Well,
But I am very confident in my prediction that it's going to be another good year for real estate. National Association of Realtors economist Lawrence Yun is saying 7% increase in sales. My bet would
Wow.
be that it's at least 10.
Wow.
At least 10.
Well, that's great news.
Yeah.
That's really great news. Well, thank you, Liz, for being here
Absolutely.
today, for giving us your predictions. If you guys have any questions, if you're ready to maybe explore selling or buying, or you have any questions even about Liz's predictions or market statistics, you can reach us at info@lizmore.com. Someone will get right back to you. So just don't hesitate to give us a shout if you have questions, and we'd love to help you.
Very good. Happy New Year.